Right then, this is a quick walk around video rather, and this is for an amazing car. This is a Honda CR-V. It's a 2-litre EX automatic. This car's covered just 38,000 miles from new. It's had one private lady owner from new as well. It's been serviced, I think from memory, it was 10 times by the Honda dealerships. We've just serviced it. It wasn't due, but we've done it anyway. But it is a remarkable car, not only in terms of its ownership and mileage, but its condition as well. It is beautiful. Front of the car, lights and lenses are clear and intact. No cracks or condensation on there. Bonnet, again, just wonderfully clean. Can't see an obvious stone chip anywhere. So I'm playing dodge the showers today, so I may sort of scuttle around a bit because it looks like it's going dark again. Near side front alloy, generally good. Just a bit of curbing on the outside edge there, which near side front is the one that generally gets all of the pain. Panel looks beautiful. Near side rear alloy generally good. Just the tiniest little mark on there. Panel is very, very clean. There's a couple of little chips on the bumper corner there, but I'm getting those attended to, so you can ignore those actually. They're only very minor, but given the fact the rest of the car is so clean, I just wanted to get the rest of it looking as nice, but that's the only obvious blemish I can see. Offside of the car, again, absolutely superbly clean. Offside rear alloy, unmarked, or a tiny mark I can see. Maiden panels, absolutely beautiful. And then final alloy, again, beautiful condition there. It really is a bit of a one-off, this car. Coming to the boot area, it's been kept absolutely beautifully. Again, we're talking about an 11-year-old car, which is generally used for heavy family use, and yet it's a remarkable condition. It's coming to the back now. Again, this is where CR-Vs are generally very heavily used because they're used to sort of ferry the children about. And yet the leatherwork in the back here looks pretty much as new as though it's virtually hardly ever been sat on. Coming to the front of the passenger side. Again, the seat just looks as though it's just been hardly ever used in any way. Finally, in on the driver's side, again, absolutely beautifully clean. And for an 11-year-old seat, regardless of mileage, absolutely superb. So inside the car now, engine's running through this section as is always the case, so the dash can be seen illuminated. Dashboard, again, looks absolutely as new. Sat nav, you can see, working absolutely perfectly. Pop the car into reverse, get that lovely clear camera, working exactly as intended. So it's been kept just beautifully. And come across the main dash binnacle. Hopefully you can see 38,559 miles, and there are no warning lights at all whilst the engine's running here. Right then, this is a quick road test video, and this is for a rather exceptional car actually, in loads of ways. This is for a Honda CR-V 2-litre EX automatic. The car is registered RJ61PPX and with a mileage of just 38,551. The reason we do all of our videos, and especially actually this road test section, is to ensure that if anyone's online looking at any of our cars, they actually get to see the car we're advertising in operation. And the reason being is that, you know, like lots of people, we've been to see cars which looked absolutely fine, only to get there and find out when we've driven the car there's an obvious fault that shows up when you drive it, so hence that's why we do it. Also done on these lovely quiet country roads in this beautiful part of Gloucestershire. This actually forms part of the road test route we take our customers on, and the hope is then that it'll be representative of what you feel yourself should you be offered a test drive in the car. So coming to the car, as hopefully you'll know from the walk around section, and which is why it is so special. I mean, this is your classic one lady owner from new, full Honda history, the same dealer from what I remember, serviced I think 10 times. I mean, it's amazing. It's been serviced on the dot every year, you know, regardless of the mileage really. And in essence, and if you don't want to watch the rest of the video, you can turn off after the next statement, because it literally drives like new. It is incredibly tight. The engine starts instantly, of course, and settles to smooth, even idle. There are no warning lights on the dashboard at all relating to the engine or any other part of the car. Temperature gauge running at a third, which is exactly where it's meant to be on a Honda vehicle, and it's been running for quite some time now. The engine is a peach. I always say it, but it's absolutely true. Honda build the best four-cylinder petrol engines in the world. They are masters at it, because not only do they give you an engine that is, in essence, historically one of the most reliable, long-lasting engines you'll ever experience. Helped by that timing chains, no belts on these cars, but also just a lovely engine to use day in, day out, because it is so sophisticated. The engine notes crisp, clean, never sounds strained particularly. It's got a, there's so many cars which can be kind of slightly grating to the ear, but this isn't. It's just a lovely, accessible engine that's very flexible in use. It's perfection, really, in my eyes. Engine then feeds through into the auto gearbox, which, like the engine, has a reputation for being pretty well. We've never touched one, even with some monstrous mileages. But again, what Honda have done is obviously carefully chosen the ratios to extract the best out of the car, both in terms of the performance but also the economy of the car as well. But in actual use, what it gives you is gear changes which are beautifully judged. In all honesty, it hardly felt. It's change gear there, it's change gear there. You just about make them out. Change gear there. They're so smooth, so slick. Notwithstanding reputation, you should always do the same checks on any automatic gearbox. Just make sure the gear changes are smooth on the move, because they should be, regardless of manufacturer. But also when you're stationary and you select drive from neutral, and likewise reverse, there shouldn't be any delays and then sudden thunks as it engages gear. And in essence, this one's perfect in every single way, as you'd expect with such a low mileage. Steering on the car, track's absolutely dead straight. There's no vibrations at all at this speed or any speed up to the legal limit, but it is a lovely power steering setup. For this type of car, and way ahead of its time, it felt so car-like. The steering inputs are fluid, they're accurate, the car follows faithfully with your inputs as you go in, so the chassis keeps up the steering very, very well indeed. But what I like about it is the weighting of it. It's not one of these horrible overlight power steering systems, which, great for doing sort of low-speed manoeuvres, but horrible when you get up to speed and you feel lifeless and vague. This has kind of almost like a heft to it. It feels almost heavy, but in a good way. There's no effort involved because it's power steering, of course. But it makes the car feel very solid and confident on the road, and very settled at all speeds. And as I said, it's a surprisingly accomplished car going through corners. And that's not, as I always say, it's not to pretend for a second it's a sports car, because it is most certainly not. But what it is it's far more car-like in its behaviour than other SUVs of this vintage. Suspension of the car, I like to talk about it at this section of road exactly because the surface of this road is like the surface of the moon. It's horrible, and this car drives just dismisses the bumps. It is brilliantly done. The ride is damped, it's supple, but unlike some which give you that, but then when you go through corners it's like lolloping about. When you turn the car, there's none of that kind of secondary motion going on. Body control is superb, absolutely superb. And because comfort is a very subjective thing, as I always say, that what suits one person doesn't necessarily suit another, but what is factual is the fact that if you've got something that's very soft indeed, and I've been in some cars where you initially think, crikey, this is so comfortable, but then you get to the corners and there's lots of motion, and it's particularly unsettling for passengers who might not be concentrating on the road, so it's quite nauseating, but brilliant, absolutely brilliant. The There's also absolutely no clonks, no rattles, nothing at all. As I said at the start of the video, it just feels so ridiculously tight, as though it's just rolled off the production line. I'm going to give the brakes a bit of a thump to make sure no one's directly behind me, but they are fantastic brakes, as you'd expect. No pulsing, no vibrations, all absolutely spot on. It's going to be going for an independent MOT, so all these things are going to be checked anyway. So there's, you know, but as it stands, I can't imagine they're going to find anything that merits a mention. It's, finally coming inside the car. We're at the point of doing this video. We've not done any cleaning of the vehicle at all. The reality is, it hardly needs touching. It's been so well kept. And the one thing that strikes you, which you can never get across on videos, is the sheer build quality of these things. You know, I know it's low mileage, I know it's been well looked after, but it is an 11-year-old car, and there's absolutely no creaks, no rattles, no buzzers. It feels like it's just carved out of rock in terms of the kind of the sense of build within them, and that's. I wish some of the motoring press would come back to cars after 5-10 years, and the cars they laud as being the best built, and just see actually what build quality is. And they seem to think build quality is basically soft squidgy plastics and heavy thunky doors. It isn't. It isn't. That's an impression of build quality. Build quality is how a car lasts over a long period of time, and that's where these things are brilliant. It's also a lovely place to sit. You've got brilliant visibility in the car, which makes you feel very confident on the road. Everything's so simply laid out by contrast to so many overly complicated modern cars. Sat nav working perfectly, it's a doddle to use. Separate from that, and rightly so, I hate it when they integrate it into the system, is a climate control system, which again is simplicity itself, and it's pumping out absolutely ice cold air. It's currently 25 degrees outside. All the buttons have that wonderful quality of actuation that Honda give you. It just feels beautifully made and designed for sort of tactile feel. Heated seats again working perfectly. Dash display, one of my favourite dashes on a Honda in terms of the binnacle, instrumentation binnacle rather. It's just so simple, but it's the detailing, the readout is just so crisp. It's like a sort of enlarged version of one of their motorbike dashboards. Steering wheel, leather bound, again shows absolutely no wear in it at all. It really doesn't. This is a four-wheel drive CRV, albeit you don't do anything, it does it all for you, because basically Honda worked out very quickly, many years ago, long before this car, that most people who drove this type of car would be doing as I am today, in perfectly good conditions, where you don't need four-wheel drive on. So basically it runs in front-wheel drive the whole time, which is the most efficient way to pull a car along. And that only if the front wheels lose grip on, let's say, snow or ice or mud or something like that. Via the traction control, it instantly brings in the rear wheels to give you four-wheel drive. It's simply genius in the way it works. It's seamless as well. And the advantages are obvious. By not running permanent four-wheel drive, you're not going to be munching up your tyres, you're not going to be using as much fuel, and you're not going to be putting as much mechanical stress to the vehicle, because this full drive system is incredibly reliable. As I said at the start of the video, I knew what the outcome was going to be, having driven it, but it's lovely just to jump back in and just to sort of reacquaint yourself, because this is one heck of a car, and whoever gets it next will be taking on a wonderful vehicle.